Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for the rejection that changed everything. Imagine this: a sleek Manhattan hotel suite filled with stylists, assistants, and publicists. Meghan is getting ready for what she calls their return to grace. Harry's pacing near the window, phone in hand, smiling at the city skyline. This was supposed to be the night they reminded the world that the Sussex name still meant power, elegance, and relevance. The NYC Humanitarian Awards had invited them to receive a special recognition for their charitable work. Cameras would be flashing, headlines would be glowing, and everything was being planned down to the minute, from wardrobe to security to, yes, their flight. But then came the call. A representative from the awards committee informed their team that their request for a private jet, fully funded by the event sponsors, had been declined. No explanation, just a polite but firm, "We can't accommodate that." Subscribe to Royal Daily Report now. Don't miss the rejection heard around the world. For a couple used to luxury and red carpet treatment, the word no hit harder than expected. Harry was reportedly furious. Meghan, stunned. To them, this wasn't just about transport. It was about respect. They weren't asking for a plane. They were asking for acknowledgement of who they believed they still were. But this time, the world didn't bow. To understand why this denial hurt so deeply, you have to go back to Paris. Everyone thought that would be Meghan Markle's grand comeback, her "I'm back" and unstoppable moment. She was sitting front row at Balenciaga, cameras flashing, chin lifted like she owned the room. But behind the sparkle, the air was cold. No hugs, no smiles, just silent glances that said everything. Fashion insiders whispered that she wasn't truly invited. Her outfit wasn't a custom gift, but a lone tag still attached. In that world, borrowed clothes are a quiet message. You don't belong here. Stay tuned to Royal Daily Report. We reveal the Paris humiliation. And then came the rumors. Word spread that she'd taken a drive through that tunnel, the same one where Princess Diana's life ended, claiming she didn't know its history. But everyone who knows Meghan knows she did. For many, it looked like an imitation too far. A woman trying to mirror a legend instead of becoming her own. By the time she left Paris, the cameras still clicked, but the warmth was gone. The applause was polite, not passionate. The city that once adored Diana had no space left for imitation. So when the NYC Awards came along, Meghan saw them as her redemption, the stage to erase Paris. To prove the crownless Duchess still commanded awe, every detail was planned. The glam, the route, the jet, because this wasn't just an appearance, it was an escape from humiliation. But when that phone call came, when the sponsors refused her request for the private jet, it wasn't just a no. It was the echo of Paris all over again. Proof that the spell was fading. On paper, the NYC Humanitarian Awards is about impact, people changing lives, uplifting communities, and giving without expecting applause. Don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for the tone-deaf demands. But behind the scenes, Harry and Meghan's team treated the event more like a red carpet rollout than a charity night. Emails went out, requests were made. From lighting preferences to the kind of water bottles in their dressing room, everything had to fit the brand. But one line item raised eyebrows, a request that their flight to New York be handled through sponsorship. In simple terms, they wanted someone else to pay for their private jet. The reasoning? Optics. Their spokesperson allegedly argued that a commercial flight could lead to uncontrolled situations, cameras, crowds, chaos. So a private jet wasn't a luxury, they said. It was a necessity. But to the organizers, it looked tone-deaf. The awards celebrated people dedicating their lives to helping others, not celebrities seeking corporate-funded comfort. And when the denial came, it was quiet but deliberate. An inside source put it bluntly: if you want to honor humanitarian work, maybe start by practicing humility. That's when cracks in the crown began to show. What was once royal privilege now looked like self-importance, and that's not something even New York's elite were eager to sponsor anymore. Royal Daily Report, bringing you the safety excuse exposed. After the rejection, Harry's team pushed back. Their defense was simple safety. They pointed to Paris, describing how chaotic it had been. How Meghan had been hunted through the streets after the Balenciaga show. But those who were there tell a different story. The chaos wasn't a random ambush. It was curated. Her route had been public. Cameras were tipped off. It looked less like danger and more like a photo opportunity that spiraled out of control. Even the drive through the Ponte d'Ama tunnel, the same one where Princess Diana died, was filmed, supposedly without her knowledge. But insiders didn't buy that. They whispered that she knew exactly what she was doing, chasing the emotional weight of Diana's memory to reignite her own relevance. That's what made the New York request feel so hollow. Meghan and Harry weren't just asking for privacy. They were asking for control, the power to choreograph every frame of how the world saw them. And when the awards committee declined, it wasn't just a rejection of cost, it was a rejection of that control. Behind closed doors, the truth was simpler. The Paris incident had shown the world that not every flashbulb was a threat. Some were just the reflection of ambition gone too far. Subscribe now to Royal Daily Report. We expose the boardroom decision. Inside the walls of the Foundation's headquarters, the conversation was direct. The organizers and their sponsors knew the Sussexes brought global attention, cameras, press, and a guaranteed headline. But they also brought controversy. So when the private jet demand reached the boardroom, the reaction was clear. Enough was enough. One senior executive reportedly asked, "If we cover their travel, what message does that send to our honorees, the people who show up expecting nothing in return?" And that was it. The decision was unanimous. The request was denied, the expenses capped, and the event would move forward without bending to celebrity terms. To the public, it was invisible, a behind-the-scenes policy choice. But inside the Sussex camp, it was an earthquake. Because for the first time in years, they were being reminded that their names alone no longer guaranteed special treatment. The press hadn't broken the story yet, but whispers were spreading. Calls were being made. PR teams were scrambling to spin the narrative, to make it sound like a scheduling issue or a miscommunication. But deep down, everyone involved knew the truth. Royal Daily Report, your window into the power shift. This wasn't just another logistics hiccup. It was a shift in power. For years, Harry and Meghan had built their brand on the illusion that they could merge celebrity influence with royal dignity. But the cracks were showing, and now, behind the glitz of New York's skyline, their image was quietly beginning to fracture. There's something almost tragic about it. Harry left the royal family to find freedom, but somehow, he's still chasing permission to be seen, to be heard, to be special. That's why the jet denial hit so hard. It wasn't about the plane. It was about being told he's no longer entitled to things that once came effortlessly. Since stepping down, he's fought battles on every front. Tabloids, the Home Office, even the institutions that once protected him. He frames it all as injustice, as if the world is punishing him for wanting privacy. But critics argue something simpler. Harry never learned how to live without privilege. He traded palaces for mansions, crowns for cameras, and royal duty for brand deals. But the expectations stayed the same. That's the quiet truth behind the NYC rejection. It wasn't personal. It was a reality check. Don't forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for the silent arrival. Even the most powerful titles mean nothing if they're no longer backed by respect. And so, as the night of the awards arrived, there was no private jet gliding through the clouds. No royal motorcade cutting through Manhattan traffic, just a quiet black SUV. Slipping through city lights like any other car, inside, two people sat in silence. Once the world's most photographed couple, now facing a truth too big to ignore. Their names still open doors, but fewer than before. Their smiles still draw cameras, but for different reasons. It's not hatred, it's fatigue. The world has simply moved on. The jet that never took off became a symbol of how fast privilege fades when it's mistaken for purpose, of how influence can vanish the moment humility disappears. For years, they've told the world their story, the battles, the betrayal, the bravery. But the story people see now is quieter and lonelier. Because when applause turns into silence and opportunity turns into decline, you're left with only one question. What do you stand for when the spotlight turns away? And as the credits of this chapter fade, one thing is clear. The Sussexes aren't running out of headlines, they're running out of second chances. The jet stayed grounded. But maybe so did they. This was Royal Daily Report, uncovering the moment privilege met reality. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon, because the world is done. Boeing, stay connected with Royal Daily Report, where second chances run out.